Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a tag that was started by Penguin Random House. It's called the I Am the Reader tag. The first question in this tag is choose one word that describes being a reader. And I'm going to say adventurous. The second question in this tag is what's the very first book that you fell in love with? I have to say the first book I fell in love with was The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. Question number 3 asks hardcover or paperback? And I'm going to say this depends on where I'm going to be reading and what I want to do with the book afterward. I have mixed feelings on this. If I'm going to be taking the book on a plane, I probably want the paperback. But if it's a book that I want to have and collect and covet, then I want the hardcover. There are some books that you just need to collect. I have various copies of Jane Eyre. See, now this copy of Jane Eyre is of course a paperback, but that's the only way this particular cover treatment was available. Then we have this hardcover copy of Jane Eyre, and it is just beautiful. It's part of a collection, so it is, hardcover. So I can't really say, do I prefer Jane Eyre in paperback or in hardcover? Both. Question number 4 asks, how has reading shaped your identity? And I think that reading has caused me to be the person I am. I started reading fantasy when I was in, I think, 4th grade. My dad brought home a copy of The Hobbit for me to read, and I fell in love with fantasy. And I began to shift the way I wrote stories into a more fantastical nature. So after that, I started writing more fantasy stories, and I finally, it's been 11 years ago now, had my first novel published by Books Publishing, and Choices Meant for Gods is the first in a trilogy. And I've had several other books published since then, and I have to say that if I wasn't a reader, I wouldn't have become a writer. That's how. Question number 5 asks, what book do you read when you need to be comforted? And when I was younger, I think that was any of the Little House on the Prairie books. Also, one of the books I turn to is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This will be no surprise to anyone who follows my channel. There is just so much that is familiar in Jane Eyre now that I've read it so many times that I can just pick this up and go to any passage in here and just immediately get swept into the story. Also, my own novels, Choices Meant for Gods is one that comforts me, but Choices Meant for Kings, the second novel in the series, is the one that I find the most comfort in. That one just has so much richness in it that I want to be with those characters in that time. Question number 6 is, who taught you to be a reader? Or did I have it in me all the time? There were several people who taught me to be a reader. I remember sitting on my grandpa's lap when I would go to visit my grandma and grandpa in southern Illinois. He had an easy chair in the living room where he would sit. I would sit on his lap. He would read to me from the Little Golden Books and the Dick and Jane series, and he actually was teaching me to read as well as reading to me. So he was one of the people who was teaching me to read and teaching me to love it. My Aunt Bee was an English teacher, and she had tons of books in her house, and some of those that she gave to me. And she instilled in me not just a love of reading, but a love of paying attention to what you're reading. And then my great-grandmother, my great-grandma Lampkin, she had stacks and stacks of books all over her apartment. And she would encourage me to just take one off the stack and read it while I was there with her. She would have me take them home with me to read. She was always encouraging me to read and to be productive when I was there at her apartment too. She taught me how to crochet and how to do needlework and stuff like that. So she was always encouraging me to do things that were productive and healthy for my mind. So question number 7 is awesome. It says, describe your dream reading lounge. And I am actually trying to build that. I have this guest room here in my house that I've been slowly turning into a library as well as a guest room. So I've got a corner over there where the camera can't see it right now, where I've got a couple of nightstands that you can put books inside, and then I've got a futon mattress. The frame has not arrived yet, and I am going to build that into a nice little reading nook over there. And then when visitors come, when guests come to my home, they will get to reside in the library, which is also where I do my filming. So, I'll have to take all the filming stuff down when people come to visit, but that'll be fine. That's going to be the reading nook. So when I have it up and ready and to my specifications, perhaps we'll do a filming of that. The final question in this tag, question number 8, asks, what book changed the way you act or see the world? And there is one book that answers this question in a very negative way. And I've talked about that book on this channel before, so I don't want to talk about it again. I don't want to focus on the negative. I want to talk about some positive books and some positive things that have sort of morphed the way I see the world. And those books are the Little House on the Prairie series. When I was a child, I would read them, and I have returned to the thoughts in those books since then. Caroline Ingalls was not she did not appear as a huge character in those novels, even though she was Ma, she was the mother. But she had phrases and almost like cliche sayings that she would say throughout those books. But I have, as an adult, returned to some of those sayings. Like, there's no great loss without some small gain. That phrase has carried me through some real trials in my life, that I just returned to that thought from Ma Ingalls today. And I think that has affected me in positive ways, and I think it has influenced me for good and has helped me just deal with things in life and just try to stay looking on the bright side of things, even when things are kind of crazy. Just kind of look on the bright side of things. And I think the Little House on the Prairie series overall has influenced me in a good way, in a positive way. So those are the 8 questions in the Penguin Random House I Am the Reader tag. If anyone, Alina at Tall Tales had this tag on her channel, so I will put the link to that video below. If anyone else would like to participate, let me know that you've done it on your channel. Give me a link in the comments below so I can go and watch. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do. I post neat things. At least, sometimes they're neat, sometimes they're just wacky. We do that on Tuesdays and Sundays here on this channel. Subscribe below, click the bell icon so you'll be notified when it happens. Thank you so much, guys.